And when he comes, he will prove the world wrong. I will admit that I forgot to set my alarm yesterday morning to get up at 4 or 5 o'clock and watch the royal wedding over in England. So yeah, it's unbelievable how I could forget, you know. And I had every reason to remember. Hold on a minute. My family's English, and so it always occurred to me that you just get up and watch the royal wedding, whichever one it is, and see whether this time the fairy tale and that storied family will come true. This year, of course, we had an even greater reason to maybe get ourselves out of bed in the morning and listen in on the ceremony through our own presiding bishop, Most Reverend Michael Curry, gave a sermon. Don't know how many of you heard it, either in when it was live or in, as I did, replay, but it was some of the best that our church has ever made and produced, I think, and a great witness to everything that we stand for and how we sin. So if you haven't listened to Bishop Curry preach either yesterday or at any other time, I would urge you to get to YouTube, and after you listen to mine, of course, listen to him. Do not compare us, please. Or if you do, be generous. So I always say to my students, I may compare you in my mind, but I'm always generous. But I was struck that we should hear from him in an ancient, very ancient and storied church building, for an ancient and storied monarchy and a celebration, right before our celebration in the year of the church of Pentecost, the church's birthday, the day in which, as the tales tell, tongues of fire appeared over the heads and through the mouths of those who were gathered together, and they could each hear the word in their own native language, and each could hear the others hearing it as well. And we understand that at that point the Spirit, which Jesus had promised when he had left, that would come in his wake, the Advocate, the Comforter, descended, came among them, rushed through their world and into their lives like a mighty wind that blows, setting them on fire. Redolin of yesterday's sermon, setting them on fire with the overwhelming power of God's love made real, not just and not only in the life, death, resurrection, and ascension of Jesus and all that Christ had meant to the world, but in each of them as well in a new way. Whatever they had felt, whatever they had known of the power of God made real in Christ, all of a sudden was made real in them by the power of the Spirit released, and release upon them and releasing them to go forth and live that word which now was theirs fully. And what struck me is the contrast between the great newness of Pentecost and the ancient church building in Windsor Castle was how the church that we have, the way that we live our lives as the people of God, is both by now an old and ancient and storied religion with all its institutions and all its history and all its highs and its lows, its great points, its great leaders, its dysfunctions and its failures, its myopia and sometimes its vision. All of that is part of the history and heritage. But it is the kind of thing that, like on that first Pentecost day, is always meant to be new, renewing, reviving, recalling us to spread again the power of the love by which God made and saved and changed and revives the world and each person in it when we allow it, when we open ourselves. That is not something that can get old. It can be around a long time, but it is always the kind of thing that must be new and must be renewed. But as important, of course, and as powerful as love is and all that it means, we remind ourselves that Jesus promised that the Advocate, the Comforter who would come, would be doing other things as well, proving the world wrong about sin and righteousness and judgment. No, what was the world saying about it? Sin, righteousness, and judgment. Well, it could have been saying a couple of things. Either that sin doesn't matter, and that each may judge what he or she will do by his or her own lights. Maybe saying that. Maybe saying that there's nothing we can do about it. There's just evil in the world, and sometimes evil want to pick up a shotgun and walk into school and shoot somebody, and we just all have to learn to live with that sort of thing. Yeah? The world may say either one of those things about sin. They're two sides of the same coin. And what Jesus is saying, the Spirit, through the power of the people gathered, through the tongues of fire above their heads, through the love shining in their hearts and making a new world out of the new community they made, is they were going to challenge both of those things and say, that is not good enough. If your morality isn't centered on the love that God is and the love that God enacts in all of us, then there's something wrong with it. And if you think that sin is the last word, and when things are bad, that's just something we have to accept, that's not right. The world may say that righteousness is impossible. That people can't be good, they can't be made better, and the community on whom the tongues of fire appeared above their heads knew that that was not true. They'd seen it with their own eyes, and lived it with their own lives, and heard it with their own ears, and then spoke it with their own lips. That people could change, and the ways that one could be righteous, full of the love and mercy, the powerful justice and the guiding peace of God, could become real if people used their brains and their hearts, and the one upstairs who is now downstairs with all of us, to make it happen. Judgment. The world was wrong about judgment. Jesus says very simply, the world is wrong about judgment because what I am here to tell you is that the ruler of this world has been condemned. Things are condemned when they're wrong or broken beyond repair. A friend of mine has a car. She said, "Preacher, you all got a prayer to condemn a car because this thing will never work properly again. Well, my husband won't let me get a new car until it fully dies completely, and while it still turns over once." He said, "That car's fine. All you do is drive around anyway." A lot of problems in his family, but all I got to say is we don't really have a lot of prayers to condemn things. That's not what we're about. We condemn sin. Jesus already did that for us, and we condemn lives that are wrapped. We don't condemn lives. I misspoke there. We always say, what can we do to bring healing to that life, which may look upon itself and believe that it is condemned? What can we do to spread hope where despair and bitterness have taken root? We always ask that, right? For the ruler of the world would have us give in to despair. That's the most powerful weapon of the evil that rule any place, is you teach people never to tell the truth from a lie, and you teach people there's nothing they can do. You just got to accept things as the way they is, and that's all there is to it. What you going to do, change the world all by yourself? That's what the ruler of the world, as Jesus would understand, would say, and always enact, right? Always reminding us there's nothing we can do. You can't change it. And I got a room in Jerusalem with tongues of flame appearing above the heads of all who had gathered there in the name of Christ, in the name of the love that made Christ real, who lived and said no to that kind of despair. Who lived and said, that is not the last word. There is always something we can do. Even if I can't do it, we can. Because we have to. Otherwise, things don't change. Nothing much ever changed because people wanted it to. I mean, look at me. I want to get thinner. Do I do the things I need to do? Not really. I know what they are. But they painful. If I don't eat the bacon, here's what I'll do. I mean, that pig would have died in vain if I didn't enjoy. That's a terrible thing to say to people. Anyway, but sometimes, and to be all serious, sometimes we do know what we need to do, and we know that it's possible, but we also know that it's hard. And we know that the rule of the world is only half right. We can't do it alone. That's why we have each other. That's why you don't go to the church of me and the church of that one and the church of this one and the church of that when we go to the church of all the people of God. Divided our history may have become. But there's still only one. There's still only one Christ, and there's still only one word for what's at the heart of what that is, and that's still the word love. And it should, as it did then, should among us, set us on fire to be overflowing with its power to change our world and to change the world. Hard to look at the paper this morning. Shooting in Texas, volcano spreading fire on an inconvenient day for the church, but fire is a positive image for us, and a royal wedding over in England. And the leaders of this country saying something stupid, but that's kind of every day. And I'm trying to figure out what is the world that all these things happen at the same time. And then I thought, without people, that volcano is the last word. That's what made the world. The various powers of nature that brought us forward. With people, we have a stark contrast between the celebration, both ancient and new, of love and all that it means, and a witness of despair and hate, and violence, and loss of life. Remember the journey. And in my mind, and maybe in your minds, one and the other seem always to go hand in hand in my mind. All that love can be, all that love makes holy, and all that we become when we are filled with love of any kind can easily be shattered by the acts of one without such love. And as we celebrate the church's birthday today, I'm left holding those two things in balance in my mind. Knowing that love must have the final word. It must never be despaired. But knowing also that when the advocate and the comforter come, as Jesus said, he's proved the world wrong about sin, righteousness, and judgment. That's what love does. But that's what we always have to make sure we, through the love of God, always do. Amen.
Amen.